Hello, my name's Joshua Allen, and for my main task I chose to direct a short film. The ancillary task consisted of a poster for the film and a magazine front cover. My first project was to research as much about short films as possible. This involved looking at structure, length, and most of all the conventions of my genre. I began by going onto YouTube and searched for various horror short films. One that particularly caught my eye was a film called L.A. Lorna, made by a small director known on the internet as Joe Nation. I analysed it by viewing it several times and noting down each and every convention. I use this as an example of something I would like to finish with. I also watched a short film called Bloody Mary, directed by another internet director called Michael Gallagher. However, I noted this down as something I wanted to stray away from, as although the story was interesting, the actual directing of it felt a bit amateur. I then moved on to creating a movie timeline of a short film called The Sacrifice, directed by Stephen Gary Looker. Doing this gave me a basic understanding on how long my shots should be and the significance of each one. This, however, was not the best role model in terms of length, as it was 10 minutes long and the longest yours was allowed to be was 8. It was then time to think about my narrative, and after hard research I came to the conclusion of creating a horror/thriller about a couple who are ransacked by a group of thugs. Dominic, the main character, tries to chase them out, however he is greatly handicapped by confusion. After coming up with a narrative, I needed to present my pitch to my peers. I performed the presentation on PowerPoint. It lasted about 10 minutes and involved the narrative, character profiles, location, prop list, my ancillary task, and music. Choosing my music was probably the trickiest, as if the music was incoherent or incorrect with the film, then it would ruin the whole mise-en-scene. So I searched over YouTube and Vimeo in order to search something that really fit with my film. In the end, I came to the conclusion that I wanted to create a pastiche of an iconic scene from the film Insidious. This is when the child is dancing to Tiny Tim. So I chose to use the song I Love to Sing Her by Tommy Bond. So I emailed the YouTube channel and asked if I could borrow it. They agreed. I downloaded it immediately. After I thought about my narrative, actors, music and so forth, I needed to start on my ancillary task. The first task I took was the poster. I needed to keep it simple yet effective. I needed to give the audience an idea on the story without giving too much away. I first needed to take a photograph of my location at night. However, what I needed to take into account was that an image at night would look unclear, and although I was trying to pull off something professional, I did not have the money or equipment to produce the Hollywood standard that I wanted to. So I took the photograph of the house during the day on the same camera I used to film. I then used Photoshop to make it look like it was during the evening, and then took a photograph of the night sky and placed it in the background, really giving it the night effect. The finish of the project was really top-notch and worked well with the rest of the project. My second ancillary task I took on was the magazine review page about my film. So I went on to Photoshop and started editing. I began, however, by taking a picture of my friend in front of a green screen with his hood up. I then imported the image into Photoshop and deleted the green screen. This image was going to be the main image on the article, so it really needed to stand out. Furthermore, I involved the use of Twitter down the side of my mag to bring more technological conversion into my mag. Doing this allows readers to add the actors on Twitter, and then this can create more advertisement through word of mouth. At the bottom right hand side of the page, I involved a web address for the company, making it more accessible for my audience. This uses synergy in the way that it promotes my film and the company. It was then time to film, and I used the JVC Aveiro as it was the highest quality camera I could find. I began by filming Callum, Dominic, walking home from the train station. This took around 3 hours to film, and all in all, when I had finished, I took it into school and began editing on Final Cut. I merged the clips together using simple cuts by snipping what I wanted and then placing the clips next to each other. I didn't use any fades or special effects. I made the music myself in Logic Pro by recording some piano and simple strings. The combination of these and some reverb and delay, I managed to create something quite eerie. However, when I listened back to it, I felt that it didn't quite fit in as well as I had imagined. So I went back onto YouTube and found the intro music to Woman in Black. Obviously I couldn't email the composer himself, so when it came to uploading it onto YouTube, Vimeo and Tumblr, I made sure that I credited the song and the composer. My next part of the film was so significant to the scene that it required a script, so that every line could contribute to the scene. This was the scene that implied that Kate was being abusive to Dominic. I wrote the script on Word, then printed it out, showed it to my actors. I also published it on Tumblr in the hope that I would get some feedback. The film then took around 2 hours. When I began editing, I reached a large hitch. The clip was very dark and the sound was very sharp. This became an issue, as refilming was out of the question due to my female actor's busy schedule. However, I solved this by changing the brightness and Final Cut effects window and changed the EQ in the sound menu. The finishing project made a real difference and I managed to avoid an amateur mess. However, I felt that transition between the two scenes did not fit at all. So I took the image of the house, made it look like it was at night and added green screen background. I then took it into Final Cut, erased the background, giving me an image of just the house. I then went onto YouTube and found a website, www.greenscreen.com, that lets you use some CGI templates in your film. So I found 2 templates, one of a moving cloud and another of swaying trees. I then put these behind my house, took out the green, and then was left with a clip that looked something like this. I then finally finished editing, and it was then time for the camera filter. The problem with leaving it as it is was the fact that it was too bright, too many colours, and this meant draining out some of the colour. Using a saturation filter in Final Cut, I'd managed to not just darken the footage, but take out some of the brighter colours. I then came to an issue that it just looked dull, and although I wanted it to sort of look as though it was dark, I did not want it to look boring. So I then took a colour corrector over the footage and turned up the blue and yellow. The blue bringing up the darkness and the yellow lifting up the light. At the end of it all, I had managed to gain more experience in filmmaking and more so than last year, as this one was a lot better. Thank you for watching. I've been Josh Allen and I hope you enjoyed my filming conclusion.